Hello and welcome to the Agile Innovation Leaders Podcast. I'm Ola Ojako. On this podcast, I speak with world-class leaders and doers about themselves and a variety of topics spanning agile, lean innovation, business, leadership, and much more, with actionable takeaways for you, the listener. Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Can you believe it? We're nearly at the end of season 1 of the Agile Innovation Leaders podcast, and this is our 9th episode. A massive thank you and big shout out to all of you who have taken the time to listen, to support, to write, to encourage. I am very, very grateful, and it never ceases to amaze me that you guys are listening from all over the world, from places and countries like New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, India, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, France, South Africa, Canada, USA, Brazil, Switzerland, Norway, of course, United Kingdom, where we live, and many other places I've not mentioned. I do appreciate the engagement. Thank you so much, and keep it coming and keep getting in touch. Now, in the course of launching the podcast, I've also had a number of you get in touch with me to say, hey, we really are interested in this agile thing, and how can we learn more about it? How do we get started? And for some of you, you've had some sort of agile initiatives going on in your organization and you don't know how you can make this better, to make it work, because it's not working as well as it should. Well, if you fall into any of these categories, today's episode is for you. I'm pleased to introduce my guest. He is nobody else other than Raymond Chike, a seasoned agile innovation professional with over 15 years of diversified experience in multiple sectors: the financial, retail, utilities, energy, consulting, and charity. And he is a big proponent of design thinking and basically blending agile, lean, startup thinking, UX design, and design thinking to provide a rounded and human-centered way of working. You just have to listen to this episode. So without further ado, my conversation with Raymond Chike. Enjoy. Raymond, thanks for making the time for this conversation. It's great to have you on the show.
You're welcome.
Great.
Excited as well.
Now, let's kick off. We want to know who Raymond is as an individual. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how your life experience has led you to choosing a career as an agile professional?
My story is one of those I'm passionate about telling people. So I'm a native of Nigeria, back in Africa, and I think the whole journey started off as me looking at the whole world in perspective, and I thought to myself, I want to see how things gets done in the Western world, the Kingdom and America and all that. That led me to a journey into the UK. So coming here, I found my first contract was more an IT security administrator service contractor or something like that. And along the line, I started noticing that I was good at connecting the business and the technology. Well, little did I know that was what business analysis was. Then business analysis became popular, but already I found I was naturally a business analyst. But then I thought, okay, let's go on that journey. And while in the journey of a business analyst, I started realizing that things took too long to happen. So people are building projects, and before the project finishes in 2 years, the world has moved on. And I said, what is the best way of doing things quicker? I mean, that was where Agile started coming up in my mentality. Then I found, all right, I think I've got an Agile mindset as well. So I think I'll take it perspective from the natural point, and that drew me. So professionally, that's how I found my way journeying to the Agile world. I live in the UK permanently now for about 14 years, 15 years or so. I've got family as well. So my primary location is around southwest of Cheltenham, but most of my consultancy has been around London, and probably traveled around anyway. I think, that's me in a nutshell, and that's my passion. And
That's quite an interesting story. It's funny because we all
as well. So
way, but the thing about us as humans is that there are things about yourself, your natural inclinations or giftings or things you're really good at, you wouldn't know until you actually get started. So it's interesting you recognize the knack, and probably people around you also recognize the knack whilst working as an IT security specialist, that you also have the ability to connect the business with technology. Just out of curiosity, what was your educational background?
yeah, I graduated as a first degree in electrical electronics engineering.
Oh, okay.
That's me really. I haven't followed any way in terms of educational academia. I've surrounded myself with lots of training and certifications I've done. I don't know if I've got enough time to start to name them, but but that's my educational background anyway.
I mean, education is not necessarily having many degrees as a thermometer. I'm also Nigerian. I also got my first degree, funnily, in electronic engineering.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. From your profile, I can see that you are quite big on marrying agile thinking with lean, UX design, and design thinking. I'm a big fan of that because it's really about focusing on what value you're bringing to the customer, whether it's internal or external, and ruthlessly eliminating anything that the customer does not value and is not willing to pay for. So what are your thoughts on marrying design thinking with lean methodologies?
My thoughts are setting in the sense that it must be married. Looking at the world we live in now, in an adaptive world, I think the most important service to me is customer service. At the heart of every product, at the heart of everything we do, if we can't link it to customer service, then we're just building what we think we like. Yeah. And before you can build something for a customer, I always look at it in this perspective. You have to design that thing. You have to then build it, and you have to engage with the people to use the product. And that's the heart of human-centered design, or rather, you can call it customer-centric way of doing something. So that is me thinking about how you bring together the human perspective and link it with the digital and the physical interaction. Now, this is where you need to combine a whole lot of techniques and thinking. And I always say it this way: Agile is not the way of working. Agile is a way of thinking than a way of working, because your behavior modification cannot change if your mind is not transformed. So at the center and the heart of Agile is a thinking.
Yeah.
The same applies to design. At the center and the heart of design is thinking. Design thinking, Agile thinking. So call it this way: design thinking, lean thinking, and Agile thinking. And to marry them is design thinking makes you get to the heart of the customer. Like, what is the problem you're about to solve? What is the pain point? Empathy. What is this? Why are we doing this thing? What is the problem? The pain point. You empathize with the customer. Now, at that point of empathy, this is where you begin to think about lean. Where lean thinks, all right, I think I've empathized with this customer. I understand this thing. I feel I understand it. That what's the barest minimum I can test to see is working? This is where lean thinking comes in, right? So then when you use the lean thinking and it works, or you get good feedback, you say, okay, I think we now see a way this thing is going to work. Okay, let's produce it in some sort of scale now, and still get feedback and learn. This is where you now bring in the principles on Agile, like the Scrums and the Kanban, or the extreme programming, or SAFe. Then you now want to say, okay, this thing is getting bigger now. We're about to blow up now. Then you want to scale. You scale the product, you engage with the people, then you might. So this is a journey of a product from its inception of human-centric pain point up to the development. And this is how I marry design thinking, lean thinking, and agile thinking.
Wow, never really heard it put this way, but it does make sense, and I do agree. So would you say that design thinking is the same thing as user experience design?
It's an interesting conversation, but it's not the same.
Okay.
But what I usually say, design thinking is a big umbrella, like you say, agile thinking. So if you Like what you've asked me now is like, is agile thinking the same as Scrum Master? It's like, oh no, Scrum Master sits under agile. That's the same question. Design thinking involves a lot of skills.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on the way you want to go with it. If you want to do a short design, bear in mind, it's a thinking.
Yeah.
Now, if you now want to bring it to reality in terms of skill, you might want to map it to, say, a researcher can be involved, a researcher. Now, does that mean you cannot be a researcher? You can be, but in a professional office, maybe there's a researcher. Okay, UX design. All right, what makes you think you're not a UX designer? Okay, I want to develop an app. I can just sketch something on the paper with a wireframe. Yeah, and I've got some understanding of UX concept. Now, that's my minimum viable. Maybe I need a professional UX designer to do a prototype for me. Okay, then you need a UX. So it depends on the product. If my product is around building a bottle, I don't need a UX designer for a bottle. I might just go get a fabricator to make a bottle. You see what I mean? So regardless of the product, the principles stand. But when you talk about the product you want to do, maybe a web designer, then the skill set comes into play. That's where the UX designer is the skill. Yeah, that's the connection. So it's like agile. Is agile the same as product owner? No. Within agile umbrella, we might need a product owner. We will need a scrum master. Okay, maybe we don't need an engineer really. Okay. While you're developing an agile product, what if the product is a pharmaceutical product? Do you need a developer? No. You need a scientist. So you see the point. So you take it with it, because when we talk about Lean-Agile, people just focus straight, website, app.
Software development.
It's not about websites, it's not about apps, it's not about, what if it's a pharmaceutical company developing a prosthetic leg, or pharmaceutical company developing a fake eyeball? What do you say then? You know, so I try to get people away from products first. Think about the human-centric way of connecting digital and physical interaction. Then I think everything will fit into play.
It's interesting how you've highlighted the fact that there are general principles underpinning agile thinking or design thinking, and the principles are separate from the products. Now, the products could vary, the principles remain pretty much the same, but now depends on the context, which you can now adapt it to the context of the product or service probably that you're providing to the end user or the customer. Am I right?
That's right.
Okay.
Well articulated.
Okay. Well, thanks. You said that there is this misconception that agile is about the things people do. Now, based on what you're saying, that agile is first a mindset, and the International Consortium for Agile, or the IC Agile organization, they said on their websites about first being agile before you do agile.
That's right.
So what would you say are the steps then towards being agile, and when would you know that you are truly agile from a being standpoint?
Okay, I think the best way to say is this way: there is nobody that's 100% agile.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's nobody. Because why I say that is, if you are 100% agile, it's like if you say yes, I am 100% agile, it does not marry up with the name agile itself, because agile itself means changing. So you say you're 100% changing. So I am 100% changing. So you are still changing. So what I try to say about agile is that how we're learning. That's agile.
Yes.
So because automatically it tells you are constantly learning. So have you learned? No, you are constantly learning. So the thing at the core of agile is a mindset. So your mind has to be ready. That's the height of it, is your mindset knows that things must change. The principles lie and the values lie within, and the practices follow, and the tools and processes that help it. So, but you need to get that at the heart of it, that the world is ruled by companies who learn faster. That's it. So how are you learning faster? That's why agile comes in. So if Facebook comes tomorrow and say, we are now agile, we are the best agile, that's wrong, because they're still going to have challenges that come up tomorrow that they have to think and say, guys, what's the next solution here?
True.
And this is where I feel agile is in itself is even a part of a product. As I've just explained, lean, design, thinking, lean and agile, all that stuff. So it's a complete mindset shift. Are we there yet? We're not always going to be there in terms of 100%, but we are on a journey.
Yeah.
So we are on a journey there. We're not definitely going to be there. So to answer your question, I don't think anybody is 100% agile. But I guess the thing is, to what degree of agile are you? To what degree of learning, or to what degree of flexibility, to what degree do you apply the principles better? I think that's the key message. And I mean, the only way to answer that is more of your outcomes, really. So when you start to measure your outcomes, you know if you are really truly agile, and how responsive you are to the market, and how adaptive you are.
Well put. So you said, yes, no one is 100% agile. You're constantly learning. And that's probably why agile and lean, they're complementary, because lean is also about continuous improvement and focusing on improving processes to achieve certain goals. What would you say about the frameworks then? Is it possible to purely apply one framework in an organization or a team context to the exclusion of others?
Yeah, good question. I think you would do yourself a favor to mix them up. I always tell people this: if you study Scrum, the next thing every company I've seen doing Scrum goes on saying, I'm writing user stories. And I say, okay, well, I'm sorry, user stories extreme programming.
Yeah.
So you're already mixing it up, right? Then you get people who are doing Scrum, then they go, oh, our Jira board is a Scrum Ban board. So what's that about? You mean
it's a Kanban board. Yeah.
So what I tell people is this: I'm not dogmatic about any. If you bring any framework tomorrow and call it jump, whatever you want to call it, my question to you is it solving human problems? Are we inspecting and adapting faster? Is it prioritizing collaboration over blah? Is it prioritizing responding to change over following a plan? Is it tied to the principle? Yes, that's it. I don't want to know what else you call the name. I mean, I was in a conference the other day and I said, look, let's be honest. If you go to Facebook now and go to Netflix, ask them what they're following. They'll probably not tell you anything. They'll probably tell you, I don't know what's Scrum. We just inspect and adapt quickly. We just learn fast. We have a system that helps us learn fast. That's it.
Yeah.
No one is going to tell you to do 3-week sprint, do 4-week sprint, do one. They just depend on the product. Depends on the product. Some people do 1-week sprint. Some companies do 1-week sprint, 2-week sprint, 3-week sprint. Some pharmaceutical companies do 1-week experimentation. I've seen companies do design sprint 0, then go on and do 1-week sprint. The thing is, where are you learning fast? How are you learning fast? And agile is just the end game. It's the building of the product. Remember, I said design thinking. Where is the place you act? No agile principle talks about empathy. Nothing like that.
No.
They just tell you sprint planning, boom, 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 go. But how do I know the product to build? I mean, this was what inspired me to my last post, where I said I did post something on LinkedIn the other day. Key things that I was trying to see to the team, because I read that from a book called The Startup Way by Eric Ries. This is the same guy who talked about the Lean Startup guy.
Yeah.
So here's Toyota. Toyota known for all the things they do around production and lean and all that stuff. But yet, someone in Toyota could say he thinks there's a missing part. And that is because they're good at creating things, but they don't have a system that tells them or discover what to produce. Scrum does not help you discover what to produce. Kanban does not help you discover what to produce. They just help you produce and learn, but they don't help you discover. So this is why I say I'm not precious about any framework. As long as that framework can help me easily inspect and adapt. That is my key, and it's transparent. That's my key. That's my own. I don't really cherish. I'm not going to say I'm a safe man. It must be safe, or it must be Scrum, or it must be Kanban. But then, does it mean I haven't gone on training for all of them? I have. I've gone on training for every one of them because I want to know what they're talking about. I want to learn because I'm also an aggressive learner. So I want to know what they're talking about. But then I always ask myself the question, what is the why? You're doing this. Why are you doing it? If it connects with principle, yes. If it doesn't, I'll pick and choose what I want from it and throw the rest away. As simple as that. So that's my view on all frameworks, really.
Makes perfect sense, actually.
You don't want to be hung up around frameworks, really. Going into this conversation the other day, someone talked about product owner. I said, listen, I've done a product owner course for Scrum. And that is not up to 2% of what it takes to be a product manager. It's not. If you think you've done a Scrum course on product ownership and you think you're not a product owner, I'm sorry, it's not. Because the product management is a big piece from design to engagement to development. So then you have several other sideline courses you have to go to understand the market, to understand the proposition, to understand business model, presentation, lean canvas. Then, you know what I mean? Where goes all the certification and framework again? But it's all about just learning. Just see it all as learning. Adding that to your toolbox. Focus on the human-centric problem you want to solve.
I quite resonate with what you said, as in likening these frameworks, the concepts, to look at them as tools in a toolbox. You pick the one that most appropriately suits the work and the organization you're in. In my opinion, I'd like to know what you think about this. But I also think it is possible that a team, an organization, or even within a project, it could evolve in such a way that the tools that you're using, or, the practices and, and the tools and processes that you're using to try to accomplish an outcome might need to change midway. So it doesn't necessarily mean that what you start with is what you end with at the end of the project. What do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, it is. I've worked with several big companies trying to do Agile and doing Agile. I've seen it. I've got the scars on my back. I know what I'm saying. It's very painful when you see people, they want to fix it into the hole and say, you have to be pragmatic. Like this consultant, I don't remember his name again, but he said, Agile has a way of making people drop their smart brains at home and come to work. If you come to work, you do Agile, doesn't mean you're not smart. You're smart. Just know that you're smart. Look around the process, see how it's going to work well for you. If it's not working, find another way it's going to work. But remember, the principles still apply. Keep the principles at your forefront. We're talking real stuff here. Yeah? So how do we make Kanban work for us? How do we make Scrum work for us? Okay, how do we draw funds, investment? Because we need seed funding to do this experiment and prove to our manager it works. Okay, you want to start up something now. You're starting small. You're not going out now, opening an office and buying a podcast device of 10 grand or 20 grand. You're being lean here, trying to make sure you're experimenting here, right?
Exactly. Now, you have to know if someone wants to.
You're applying the same principles. You've got the mindset. You've got the mindset. That's what you're doing right now. And it's the same principle applied at the scale.
Thanks. You mentioned that you've had scars on your back as a contractor working with teams and organizations. Anyone you wish to share?
I think for me, the behavior is the same. What I can say is every company wants to be agile. That's the market drive. Just get that right. Every company wants to be agile. In fact, you can almost sell anything to any company now in the name of agile.
It's a buzzword, right?
Yes. But then I always say this, if I get in there, how can I add value? So you get in there, you stumble on arguments. One coach prefers safe, another coach tells you Scrum, another coach tells you Kanban is the way. Then I always challenge them by saying, then when I come in with design thinking mentality, look at me like, where does this guy come from? Who are you? We're agile. I say, yes, but how do you draw funds from the manager to tell him you're agile? So, that's a product manager responsibility. I say, oh, really? I thought that's still on the agile. Does Scrum Pro owner coach teach them how to draw money? I say, no, it's okay. You see, what you find out is, that's what you see in companies. I think what we need to start to understand is, I would say people guide yourselves with mentors. Experience is key as well. My experience tells me that many companies are still on the journey. Yeah. And as I said, agile is a journey. My gauge tells me every company now knows there's no argument. We have to be agile. So we've crossed that stage. They know that we have to be adaptive. They know that now. The challenge many companies are facing now is how. They now know, but it's the how now. So advice is, based on my experience, there is no pattern. All I can say is, as long as you have these three pillars in the mindset of what you do, the design thinking, lean thinking, agile thinking, I always wrap it up by saying almost an entrepreneurial mindset as well.
Oh, yeah.
That will help. A bit of that will very, very help, because then the reason why I say entrepreneurial mindset, because then you're thinking differently. You're not there sitting down in a company waiting for your salary every month and just go home.
Yeah.
You're inspired to say, what problem are we solving? What customer problem are we solving out there? How can we be fruitful? Now you're thinking entrepreneurial. I think that drive will start to send a different message to company structures. They start to inspire people to work. They start to inspire people for new products. Because people love working agile. When you put agile in any office, calm down, people love it. Why? Because it's liberating.
It is. The transparency.
It has that way of making it transparent. People love it. That's the key to successful companies we see these days everywhere. We don't know how they succeed, but this is the principle they've been applying years ago when it was not branded anything. Until now it's becoming branded, whatever we call it now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it helps to put a name to something, but it's more about not enshrining it and kind of stifling the spirit of what that thing is meant to mean, losing the value.
I agree with you 100%.
Now, you mentioned the book Startup Way, and I assume that you might have read some other books. If you were to gift or recommend, say, 2 or 3 more books that have greatly shaped your thinking, your agile, lean, design thinking, which ones would you recommend?
Wow. There are key ones, I think, if you want to be different, if you want to be agile different, set yourself apart. You need to have a hold of this sort of books. I would say go for the Startup Way, Lean Startup, Lean UX, Impact Mapping by Goico, User Story Mapping, Jeff Patton. These will get you started.
Okay.
These are books I've seen that stood the test of time.
Okay.
When it comes to this whole game of agile, they will set you apart in your agile thinking. It's almost going to be like you just became holy again in agile. I'm telling you, because with every page you read in this book, you'll probably read them again and again, and you'll be wondering, where have I been in this world?
Kind of reminds me, there are some books that I have read across different disciplines, although I tend to read more of business and self-improvement books. And there are some that are out there which I'll read quickly, and I'll make a mental note to read them again at a slower pace. Yeah. However, I also have a lot queued up.
I have so many books. I buy physical books.
Yeah.
The kind of books I buy are technology, innovation, entrepreneur.
So there might be other professionals out there or people who want to make a headway into the lean agile world as consultants or contractors. Now, you said you came from Nigeria to the UK. So how did you get your first agile related role?
Yeah, I think it's more to do with experience first in the 4 walls of the companies. And there are 2 levels, I call it. Like I do some private coaching and training for people who want to get into like fundamentally a business analyst role, then maybe progress to an agile role. But I would say most of this thing, as I said, the first thing is the mind. I always say this, it's difficult to try to teach you agile and you don't understand agile. It's difficult. So I think what I tend to do is there is a level of experience I hope you have experienced in the 4 walls of companies, see problems. Then we can do some training or in most cases, enlighten yourself to some of these books, read them, be sure, understand what they're saying. I always say understand why people use agile. Don't understand agile, just understand why. And relate it to your real world. Bring it home. Always bring it home, because how do you bring it home? I tell people, look at the things you use from day to day. When you started using WhatsApp, it's not what it is now. WhatsApp started with just a message. There was no video. There was no record. There was no that whole thing. Started with messages. Then later, this is agile. They were changing things, giving people what they want, changing it again, adding this, moving the colors. Now, connect agile to your daily world. Then, when you get to the companies, it just starts to make sense. Because the companies you might get into, they are also as confused as you think you are. So I guess the most important thing is passion. Get that passion in your mind. If you are agile, to come out in your mind and the way you talk, people will now know it's agile. But if you don't have it in your mind, as a project, you change your mind. I teach people this. look at your life as well. You want to look for a house or a project you want to work on. You want to buy a new car. So you thought you wanted to buy a Volvo. Suddenly, as you started going, you found out that you don't like a Volvo. You started changing to Mercedes. Why? Your requirements are changing every minute, even as a human. You haven't even gone a month. You've changed 3 decisions already. So that is the adaptive behavior the world is at. What system can manage it? What technique will manage this changing requirements every day? Yet, you start changing to come and give customer satisfaction. So this is my always coaching to people is connect it to your day-to-day life first, makes sense. Then every other thing people are talking about can be reality now. Then you can do the trainings, you can do the coaching, you can do the workshops, and they all begin to join dots together. I do workshops as well, but then that's more, my trainings and workshops are more experiential, bring case studies into the room. By the time you go out, you understand what it means. Yeah, so that's the way I look at it, really.
Okay, so are these workshops public?
Yeah, at the moment, the ordination are consult, but I do it and run them with them. But then I do them public, but that's once in a while. My plan this year is to have some public sessions, but I haven't put them in the calendar yet.
Okay.
I'm still trying to work out what customers want. I'm still going through a design thinking phase around it because I feel I don't want to just publish what I like. I want to see what people really want and see how I can do something bare as minimum that can help satisfy the needs. So I would say I'm at that stage where I'm a bit lean about it as well. But then I'm also willing to do anything on demand, depending if there's a group of people that come together and say, I want to learn this thing. We're 10 of us or 20. I do things like that sometimes. I did one in Cardiff last year. A group of people came together, 12 of them, said they wanted to understand business analysis, how it links to Agile and all that stuff. So I did a bespoke material for them and I went and delivered it for a full one day. So things like that I can do as well. But as I said, there's no one public at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. Once you have finalized your calendar for some public training or workshop events, where would be the best place for this info?
I think professionally, the best way to get me is LinkedIn.
Okay.
So Raymond Chike, LinkedIn. That's the best way to get me professionally.
I'll put your LinkedIn profile URL in the show notes.
Yes, I have a meetup group in Gloucestershire called the Design Thinking Squad.
Okay. Do you have a URL for that? Is it on Meetup?
It's on Meetup as well. It's a Meetup group called Design Thinking Squad, Gloucestershire. I do design thinking crash courses, which are only about 2-3 hours. If I get a demand for it, I'll arrange something.
So anyone who's interested, who probably is listening to this episode, that wants to get in touch with you, the best would be your LinkedIn. Okay. Well, time does fly when you're having fun. I've enjoyed the conversation, Raymond. Yeah, thank you so much for
You are welcome.
Time. Do you have any last word for the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I've enjoyed this conversation. Thank you as well for making this happen. I know it's been busy for me to really get the time around it, but finally we made it work. We've been very adaptive and through nature of Agile, it's happened. So I would say to you listeners out there, keep your dreams alive. There's always a way around everything. Keep in touch. And as I always say, the future belongs to those who learn faster.
Thanks a lot, Raymond.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's all we have for now. Thanks for listening. If you like this show, do subscribe at www.agileinnovationleaders.com. That's agileinnovationleaders.com or your favorite podcast provider. Also share with friends and do leave a review on iTunes. This would help others find this show. I'd also love to hear from you, so please drop me an email at ola@agileinnovationleaders.com. Take care and God bless.